Welcome back to the Nutritional Revolution podcast. It's Kyla Chanel here, your podcast host. And today we have for you guys Dr. Shai Brown. She's the founder of Building Bridges, Inc., where she is an executive and strategic leader supporting young girls' empowerment through STEM. With degrees in biology and biological sciences from Jackson State University and her master's and PhD from Tennessee State University, Dr. Shai is also a biochemist with expertise in exercise science, sports physio, bioinformatics, immunology, and cancer biology from industry and academia backgrounds. Passionate about mentoring and inspiring the next generation, Dr. Shai is deeply committed to helping youth explore their interests through exposure to STEM and building self-confidence. Her experience with students has shaped her understanding of mentorship, and her guiding philosophy is encapsulated in her favorite self-quote, where she says, "If I can be a stepping stone to help one student get to where they desire to go quicker than I did, then I have served my purpose as a mentor." She's an amazing guest and speaker, and we're super excited. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Welcome back, everybody. We have with you guys, this is like once in a lifetime guest, Dr. Shai Brown. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be on.
I am so excited. So this episode today is going to be a little bit different than our past episodes, and I'll share with our listeners kind of what we had reached out to Dr. Shai, and she'll share too. I'm sure you like your background in history and in research. She's got a really cool background, but she's like, "Hey, I'm actually doing something else that's really cool. Do we want to talk about that?" And I was like, "Heck yes," because we've never had anybody on to dive into this stuff. So we're going to get to that, but before
Okay.
we do. We're gonna do your truth and a lie.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, you break it down for me.
All right. I'm a baker.
Okay.
I'm a dog walker.
Hmm.
I'm a published poetry author.
Ooh. I
Which
feel like,
one is the lie?
yeah, which of these are all good, realistic ones.
Yeah.
I feel like the published poetry could be very real. Feel like that could be very real.
Okay.
Baker. I mean, I know a little bit about the research background, so I know that I feel like you could have been. Did you have to do food science management or food science in your undergrad? You gonna tell me?
No,
Okay.
no, but I will say this. Most people in STEM have some type of creativity that they do something else on the side.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna say the lie is the dog walker, but don't tell me the answer.
Okay.
We'll reveal it for the listeners at the end of the episode. So why don't we kind of jump things off here and give us a little bit of background about kind of what got you excited to get into the area of science and research, and give us a little bit of your background and your history and
Yeah.
what got you to where
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Mississippi, born and raised.
Mhm.
And I will say the thing that first started science for me what happened to be science fairs. So let me just back up a little bit more. So my mom, she's a retired school teacher, so she taught kindergarten. So I was actually doing homework before I got to school
Yeah.
because she would bring home those tracing words
Mm,
and ABC. So I was doing all that very, very early. And so once I got into school, the thing that sparked science for me was science fairs.
mm.
And you don't hear about schools doing them as often as they used to when I was in school, but science fairs is what sparked it for me because I could ask a question, I could give my own hypothesis, and then it was up to me on how to figure this thing out. And so one of my very first science fair projects, which gum has the longer lasting flavor? Like something just so simple.
That's great.
And then after that, and that actually won at my school and took me to regionals
Wow.
because I had to do clinical testing with
Yeah,
people and chewing different types of gums and different trials. So I was all into it.
that's great.
So yeah, science fairs is pretty much what sparked it for me in middle school. And then from there, high school, I learned I like dissecting quite a bit. So the pig dissections, the frog dissections, those were my thing. Like it did not gross me out, none whatsoever. I enjoyed that so much. And
Yeah.
so after graduating high school, I said, you know what? I guess I want to be a nurse. But here's why. Here's why. And this, I want to open this up very early because this is the whole idea behind building bridges.
Mm.
Growing up in a small town, Mississippi, I didn't have that much exposure. So yes, my mom, school teacher, but like, people coming to my classroom to talk about different things and what they do and just learning there are different opportunities. Like, yeah, my science fair project had to do in the realm of food science, but I didn't know that, oh, I could actually major in food science. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Not
totally.
being able to make that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I only knew I could do three things after graduating high school. It was only three options that I knew.
Mm.
Nurse, because I have cousins that are nurses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Teaching, saw that from my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And medical doctor. I had a distant cousin that was a medical doctor.
Mm.
Those are the only three things that I knew I could be.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Let's choose nursing. So I chose
Mm-hmm.
nursing. I went to a community college, got into the nursing program, and first semester, guess what happened?
Did you drop out?
I flunked out. I
Oh
didn't pass.
no.
Oh no. Oh no, you're right. Oh
Yeah.
no. And that was like the first time I received an F as well.
Oh.
That was the first F. And so it was devastating.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to share it with my parents because I'm like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, here I am,
Yeah.
like this honor roll student coming from high school, and I just flunked out of nursing school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't let that stop me though.
Good.
I didn't let that stop me. I still got my associate's in the arts degree,
Mm-hmm.
and then applied for university, and I got a full ride to Jackson State University.
Wow. Amazing.
So went to Jackson State and decided, all right, now my major is going to be biology pre-med because I'm sticking to what I know, right?
Yeah.
I knew nursing and I knew medical doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here I am preparing to go to medical school. I did a summer internship at Meharry Medical College in Nashville. So I knew it. Like, I'm going to go to Meharry. I decided I was going to be a pediatric surgeon
Oh wow.
because I like kids and I like dissection. Like, this was it. I had figured it out. Started studying for the MCAT, and yeah, I didn't take the MCAT
Oh man.
because that fear of like failing
Yeah.
started to kick in because I didn't pass the first semester of nursing
Mm.
school.
Yeah.
So I might not do good on this
Mm.
medical test to get into, med school. So you know what? I had to figure things out again. So that's pretty much my path. And then, just try to speed things up along my story. I ended up finding out about a research program at Jackson State,
Mm-hmm.
computational biology and bioinformatics. I knew nothing about that. I'm like, what is this? All I knew was they were paying me $1,000 a month as an undergrad student and what 2006,
Mm.
yeah, 2006. And so I'm like, hey, I
Yeah.
need that $1,000 a month. That was a
Yeah.
lot back then for
Mm-hmm.
undergrad. So I got in the program, and this was my first introduction to research.
Mm.
This is like all new to me. So I'm learning more about research. I'm going to conferences. I'm doing summer internships at Purdue University, Rutgers University, um, uh, uh, Illinois,
Mm.
Urbana, Champaign. Like I'm going to, these universities doing summer internships, getting even more exposure.
That's great.
Yeah. And so from there, it went to graduating, doing a post back at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. So I got some government experience.
Nice.
Then deciding, I'm ready to go back to grad school. And then I went to Tennessee State University, did my master's and PhD.
Wow.
I worked on biochemistry and immunology, looking at how environmental contaminants affect the immune system.
Whoa.
And you're probably thinking this has nothing to do with exercise science, right? Right. My previous, it doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't. And so the story unfolds because I was only preparing to go into this research academic route. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't preparing for industry. Again,
Yeah.
not having the exposure to know what's out there for me in industry.
Yeah.
And so when it came time for me to do my dissertation defense, I'm trying to figure out what am I doing next. You're
Mm.
trying to apply for jobs and fellowships.
Yeah.
So I had a postdoc lined up at Vanderbilt in Nashville. I also had got word that I got hired as a professor at Bethune-Cookman in Florida.
Nice.
And then it just so happened I found out about a postdoc opportunity in industry working with Gatorate Sport Science Institute. I applied, I got hired, and that is how that transition into industry started. So from biochemistry all the way to exercise science and sports nutrition, big jump, big
Yeah.
jump. But what I found out was that the skill set that I was gaining over time
Mm-hmm.
was transferable into
Mm-hmm.
that field. But then it allowed me to get even more exposure into industry, exposure into working with human subjects, just the entire realm, and even adding more knowledge to my background of the things I
Yeah.
had already studied. So
Wow.
that is that journey. It was all about, gaining the exposure that I didn't have, gaining
Mm-hmm.
more knowledge, finding out about the opportunity, but kind of taking risk as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then getting over the fact that, okay, I failed early on, but those failures can actually lead to triumphs.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So,
The job thing is very interesting. I think I mean I meet so many people today and they tell me what their job is and I'm like, I did not know that that was a job. Like, if
didn't
you
know.
yeah, if you don't know, yeah, if you haven't been exposed to it, you don't know. There's like all these jobs out there I've never even like newer jobs or heard of. So yeah, there's lots of stuff out
Hmm.
there. So the exposure when you're young too, which is what we'll touch a little bit about on with the mentorship and the building bridges, but yeah, is really helpful to know like that those are different options. So do
Hmm.
you want to share with us a little bit about what building bridges is and how you're involved in that?
Yeah. So Building Bridges is a nonprofit that is designed to expose, equip, and empower young girls to pursue STEM education through building their STEM confidence. And so basically, what that means is providing exposure through hands on experiments in different realms of STEM. So, food science, engineering, biochemistry, biology, technology, you name it, but giving that hands-on experience to say, hey, Kyla, did you know that let's take hair shampoo and hair conditioner. Did you know you needed a background in STEM to be able to do that in a lab and be a product developer?
I would think so. I would think so, just because yeah, because I've done some food development, so I know there's some stuff there. But yeah, I would
It is, and so that's how we're able to like relate it to the students that we come across,
yeah.
because they're buying chips off the shelf, they're
Mhm.
drinking beverages, they're eating candy, but they're not understanding or don't even know that, oh, this has to go through a product development phase. There has to be a food scientist working on this, there was probably a chemist working on this, and just being able to make those connections to say, okay, now that we taught you the basics, now you're going to make your own hair shampoo and hair conditioner. What? And then the lights go off. Oh, you're going to make your own gummy candy today. Really?
That's
Like,
so cool.
and so, then it becomes this whole idea of, I didn't know. Or now I can see myself
Yeah.
being a scientist because they're able to relate what they know to something totally new. And then being able to say, okay, if you like this, what we did today, here are the different options in the careers that you can have.
Yeah.
And so just doing those simple building blocks for youth and allowing them to understand that science just doesn't have to be white lab coat and goggles,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It can be so much more than that. And so, yeah, that is pretty much the basis of building bridges and being able to get that exposure out there.
That's amazing. And what age range do you start with that?
Middle school. So, middle school is our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
because there's a statistic out there that says between the ages of 8 to 14 is when girls start to lose their confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to get into that age range, that middle school group, to build their confidence, one overall, but also give them that exposure to all the different STEM opportunities that are out there. And
Yeah.
then, the other thing is, not only do we do this in the classroom, but we're able to do this outside the classroom. We're able to, partner with other companies and corporations to do field trips and
Mm-hmm.
let them see things in person. We're able to bring people from other companies and organizations to the classroom so they can talk about their real world experience face to face. So it's really, all about bringing it together holistically,
Yeah.
so that they're doing things with their hands, but they're seeing people as well, or they're seeing
Yeah.
the space.
That's so neat. So you mentioned the classroom. And you're based in Chicago for our listeners. So is this something you're doing with the schools in that area and like going to the classes? Are they all girls schools or?
It's a mix. It's a
Okay.
mix.
Yeah.
So, yeah, being able to operate in Chicago public school systems, doing after school programming with
Great.
all girls groups,
Mm-hmm.
um, being able to do in school programming with, students, all students, boys and girls,
Mm-hmm.
being able to interact with the all girls academy. So, it's really a mix of all girls, girls and boys
Mm-hmm.
in school and after school.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have loved something like this as a middle schooler. Like I remember I was so fascinated the first time I got to look through a microscope, I think in sometime in like middle school. I thought it was the coolest thing. And then ever since then I wanted my own microscope. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that exposure
Yeah.
sticks. So did you have a mentor? Obviously, I'm sure your mom and these family members that were in the medical fields, but was there any mentor for you that really like helped nudge you along and get you in
Yeah.
the direction you're going?
Yeah. I have two actually. I
Yeah.
have I have to give shout outs to two. So one, Dr. Raphael Isopahi,
Hmm.
um, undergraduate mentor from Jackson State University. He was actually the director of that computational biology and bioinformatics research program that I joined.
Cool.
Outside of research, what I really learned from him was professionalism.
Mm,
Um, Updating resumes, having a business card, going to conferences, networking at
yeah.
conferences, the attire, what to put on when you go for a conference. It's like, and that whole idea of preparing for what's next. So I really learned that from him, and I really do appreciate him for instilling that in me very, very early on, because it's some of those things that I tend to pass on to some of the students that I mentor now. And then the second person, Dr. Margaret Whalen from Tennessee State. So she was my uh, principal PI investigator at Tennessee State. So
Hmm.
her research, biochemistry, cancer biology, she was also a professor. What
Wow.
I learned from her was pretty much that importance of why research matters,
Mm,
and the importance of collecting data and
hmm.
knowing how to share the data story,
Mm,
and being able to craft, okay, you got all this data, what are we going to do with it? So she was just so great at telling the story behind the data
hmm.
that I picked up on that, and I was able to say, okay, this is how you do it on a poster. This is how you present it at a conference. And so to this day now, the way that she worked with me on crafting posters for conferences and talks, that is definitely the approach that I use when working with some of our interns who do presentations at conferences.
That's so
So
cool.
I really thank them both for instilling two different things within me.
Yeah. Of those two mentors, so the first one you said encouraged you to like go to the conferences, like dress appropriately for the conference. Do you have like
Yeah.
Cliff Notes versions for our listeners of what?
Well, back then it's different. Back
Yeah.
then you was more business attire. Now you
Yeah,
can wear tennis shoes at conferences.
that's true.
Now you can wear tennis shoes and
Yeah.
jeans at conferences because you're there all day. You just want to
Yeah.
be comfortable.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Cliff Notes. I would say. you want to look your best
Yeah.
because people are pretty much drawn to how you present yourself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I remember that was one thing he always said, that you want to present yourself in a way that you're approachable
Mm-hmm.
and that people can um leave with something that they remembered about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. I like that. So do you still use business cards today, or is that world changing too a little bit?
On my phone, so I have
Yeah.
the hi hello app. So when
Oh,
people ask how can I get in contact with you, I said, do you have your phone? And I
yeah.
just pull it up, scan it, and it's my digital business
Business.
card with my
Yeah.
photo. That way they can remember what I look like.
Mm-hmm.
My email, my phone, websites, and social media handles.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. I gotta set that up. I gotta do the
Set it
hi
up.
hello.
Set it up. Hi, hello. And the
I like
thing
that.
is, you get their information once they save your contact, then
Oh,
they have
perfect.
to put in their information and it
Yeah.
gets emailed to you.
That's great. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Talking about conferences, what conferences are you going to, any conferences this year?
I was just at a conference this week, so I'm
Oh, yeah.
actually coming off
You're
of
busy.
just presenting at a conference. It was here in Chicago, the
Hmm.
American Society of Molecular Biology and
Cool.
Biochemistry. So I presented about soft and transferable skills and how that has the power to lead to a successful career.
Nice. Yeah.
And I had a former intern to come to Chicago, and she presented a poster based upon some of our data and outreach. And it looked at how the consistent exposure to STEM allowed girls to kind of like change their interest in
Mm,
STEM within a
yeah.
year's time, and it
Mhm.
also built their STEM confidence.
Amazing.
So we were able to look at the data from our surveys and did some analysis and like show that over time that there may be answers like, so do you see yourself pursuing a career in STEM was one of the questions.
Mm,
So the maybe answers tend to decrease over time. So they were like kind
mm,
of high at the beginning of the year, but once we got into a year's worth of time,
mm,
those answers started to shift into more of a yes or a no,
mm.
because it's kind of like, now that I'm getting consistent exposure, I know whether or not I want to do this.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that was one of the greatest things with internships through my undergrad is it really does give you that exposure to know, like, I can see myself here, or this is like, oh no, I do not want to do this situation.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's great. So is the studies and the surveys that you're doing, are those building bridges participants that are
Yes. Yes.
awesome? That's so
So these
great.
are Building Bridges participants. This is one of the after school all girls groups
Hmm.
that we've been interacting with for like 2 years now.
Wow.
So we're able to interact with the same girls after school. They know who we are. They're excited to see us. They're taking the same surveys every single time. And we're like, all right, it's time for us to tell a story with this because we
Yeah.
got a lot of data on this one group
Yeah.
specifically. We
Wow.
need to say something. And then the other cool thing we were able to do with the data was group our experiments into 4 categories.
Mm.
So food science, engineering, biology, and food science, engineering, biology, and chemistry. That's it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is cool in itself. So when we asked like how confident they felt
Hmm.
within themselves after the
Mm.
STEM program, the food science and the biology experiments were rated higher
Interesting.
than the chemistry and engineering
Huh.
experiments. And this is my take on why, because I was there observing, and so I
Mhm.
remembered specifically during a lot of the engineering programs, which involved some problem solving, troubleshooting, because one, they had to make like a flashlight with a popsicle stick and an LED light,
Oh, wow.
or some maybe they had to do some math.
Hmm.
They tend to struggle a little bit,
Hmm.
or saying, why isn't this working? Or
Mm.
this is hard.
Hmm.
So the confidence to do something within that realm versus the food science is like, oh, I can see that immediately. Oh, I
Hmm.
made candy or I made something and I
Mm.
got it. But the tech engineering part, it just involved a little bit more troubleshooting than they were used to interacting with us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. I
yeah,
could see that. Do
yeah.
you, without using any names, but do you have any specific stories of the like transformation or growth in any of your participants that you want to share?
I actually do,
Yeah.
and so this young lady, she came across us at the Museum of Science and Industry. So we're a STEAM ambassador for the museum, and we're always doing outreach events there. And that particular time, it was right before the pandemic, I believe.
Mm.
We showcased our Love the Ski Year In program, which participants could come up to our little station and make their own sugar scrubs.
Cool.
Shortly after that, this young lady started her own business making sugar scrubs.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
I read like a write up about her or whatever, and she gives shout out to Building Bridges for starting that.
Wow. Oh my
Yep,
gosh.
and her business is still running.
Amazing. How old
Yeah,
was she when she started it?
I think teenager.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. Very cool. Okay. So on your website, you have a quote. You said, if I can be a stepping stone, oh gosh, I didn't have the whole quote written here. Hold me,
yeah.
apologize. If I can be a stepping stone to help one student get to where they desire to go quicker than I did, then I
Yeah,
served my purpose as a mentor.
yeah.
Um, it sounds like you're doing a lot of that.
Yeah. So basically, I forgot what year I started to like kind of create that, but the whole idea is like using me as that stepping stone is like I'm being transparent about my path. I'm
Hmm.
sharing the good and the bad, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not just want to only share, oh, here are the good things I did, but no, I flunked out of nursing school very early on. So I'm not ashamed to share that
Yeah.
because it's one of those things that if I am mentoring an undergraduate or a graduate student, which I've done quite a few times and still doing, it's just being able to share that entire pathway and be
Hmm.
transparent and answer the questions that they may have. So that way they can use me as a stepping stone to say, okay, this is how Dr. Shy went through this. Let me take her advice on this particular topic so that way I can get to where I'm trying to go quicker.
Hmm.
Or tapping into my networks. Although I didn't go to medical school, I have friends who did. And
Hmm.
so when I come across students who are interested in med school, I tend to link them up with some of my close friends who are medical doctors. And then they're able to set up informational interviews. So again, use me as a stepping stone. I didn't go, but I have very close friends who are medical doctors.
Yeah.
So you can get the information that you need. And so it's one of those things of not being ashamed to share my testimony, my mistakes. So again, like that student can just, flourish and get where they're trying to go because
Yeah.
I understand my path was all about exposure and getting the exposure.
Hmm.
And it's one of those things when I look back on it, I always share it because I didn't have the exposure at the beginning,
Mm.
but I kept getting exposure along the way
Yeah.
versus I meet high school students and undergrads that have had so much exposure early on, like, man, I wish I had that.
Yeah.
But my path is I can share what I went through, what I was exposed to, so that the student that I'm mentoring can go so much further than I
Yeah,
did.
that's amazing. You're also very approachable, which I think is makes it that much easier. I just remember so many professors that seemed so stern and very serious and almost like scared to even ask a question in class kind of like feeling. And so yeah, I remember like I finally got one professor and they were like very like any question, no question's a dumb question, like ask any, and I just remember like feeling like such like a almost
Mm-hmm.
like a relief when I was in that class, because yeah, there is no dumb question. Like you
There is
want
no
to,
dumb
yeah,
question.
you want to learn. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. The other question I was thinking too with the girls in STEM that you have currently, do you know or do you poll what their parents' professions are? Like, do you find that a lot of them come from parents that are in the STEM background already, or what does that look like?
Actually, that is a good question, but the answer to that is no, we don't poll. So let
Okay.
me share what we do poll. So
Yeah.
because we want to keep our surveys, strictly based upon STEM and confidence. So we're
Mm-hmm.
not collecting like any personal data.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because some schools don't allow you to do that. But if you just stick to generalized, we want STEM data, we want confidence data.
Yeah.
We're not asking for age, we're not asking for ethnic background, we're not asking
Yeah.
for gender, any of that. Um, so when it comes to wondering if their parents are coming from SNP backgrounds, we just don't know. We just don't
Mm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, as girls and students get comfortable with you, they start to share certain things. I remember I was in a classroom, I think in March,
Mm-hmm.
and a young boy came up to me. He said, Dr. Shai, today's my birthday. I was like, well, happy birthday. And he said, yeah, I'm going to take this home, what we did today, and share it with my mom. Okay, great, awesome. And he's like, yeah, we do STEM together a lot because she knows I like STEM, I like
Oh.
science. And so she wants to do these things with me very, very often. Hearing that, I'm like, okay, so you have a very supportive parent at home.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes me think that, I mean, I don't think so. My parents, my dad was a woodworker and my mom was actually a police officer, and both of them didn't get like college degrees and not super knowledgeable about science. So they weren't like gonna enroll me in any of that stuff. But now with my background, like if I don't have any children, but if I did, I feel like the first thing, because it was so exciting to me, like the first thing that comes to my mind is like, I want this kid like looking like through a microscope and like doing STEM stuff. It sounds
Yeah.
so cool. I would lean towards getting my kid involved in something like that if I had that background, I would think. But so that's why I
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I wish we could collect the data like that, but again, that's a
Hmm.
little bit more personable. But
Yeah.
the other thing I will share, from my experience, because we do tend to do a lot of STEM outreach events.
Hmm.
And so with that, we're able to see parents with their children coming up to our table and interacting with them. So we
That's
do
great.
see that quite often.
Yeah, that's so cool. I wish science fairs were a thing. I don't like when you said that in the beginning, I was like, yeah, I don't think my school ever did a single science fair.
Oh, for real? You didn't get
Yeah.
a chance to do a science fair? Oh,
No.
man.
Yeah. I like think of what I saw in movies of like people with the volcano that's erupting on the table. It's like
Okay, okay,
yeah.
okay,
But I would have loved to, yeah, that sounds so neat. But I don't think we ever got to do that out here. At least not in like my upbringing.
okay.
Um,
They are neat. And the thing about it is I've been able to be like a science fair judge, which is so cool.
oh, yes.
Now that is cool. The last science fair I judged, I believe, was last year.
Mm,
And it's just so great just to hear, the seventh grader or eighth grader explaining to you, here's my project, this is what I researched, this is what I tested, and you're like, wow, like I don't think
yeah.
I would have thought of that in seventh or eighth grade. So like it's just so amazing to hear
Yeah.
them come up with these things and be excited about sharing it. And then, I'm on the other hand asking them questions and they're doing really great at answering back. It's like, this is awesome. So I really do think like middle schools should try to implement those as much as they
Definitely.
can on a yearly
Yeah.
basis. But some of the things I've been hearing back is that, they don't have the time or
Mm,
the capacity to put it on. So I do understand, but maybe it's one of those things that building bridges can start doing for schools. Who knows?
yeah. You guys need to start going like through like multi-state too. We need you out here.
Yeah,
That would be cool. So with kind
yeah,
of with building bridges and mentorship in general for or I should say professionals in STEM mentoring younger kids, how did you, I mean, how did you start building bridges or do you have any suggestions for others of how they can start a mentorship program for younger kids, getting them into STEM?
yeah. Actually. So, oh, I didn't share the story of how building bridges came to be. I am so sorry.
Yeah, let's share it.
Okay. I saw a need. So it started when I was in Nashville. I was finishing up my PhD,
Mm,
and I got linked with a young group of Black girls from a colleague from Vanderbilt. So she would invite me over to talk to them and chat with them, and it was great. One thing came up during that interaction was that they lacked confidence in
mm,
themselves and who they were and how they looked.
mm,
I was even told that, they didn't like their hair. That's what really got it going for me.
mm,
They didn't like their hair. I'm
mm.
like, okay, we got to do something about this. And so I ended up inviting them to my lab at Tennessee State. They literally live right down the road. So they toured the lab that I worked in. And then I also got another colleague, grad student from TSU, to join me. And we talked about the biology of hair, science behind it, and then they made their own hair shampoos and hair conditioners, and then we wrapped up with self love, and that was in July of 2017. So
Wow.
me not even knowing there will be a building bridges, I like to tell people that the nonprofit world found me. I didn't go looking after it. Like it wasn't even on my list to start a nonprofit.
Right.
But that right there was like the first of many,
Wow.
because it filled a need of providing that exposure to science
Mm-hmm.
and then also building confidence at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, be confident about your hair and what it looks like, but at the same time, you're going to make your own hair shampoo and hair conditioner. And you're also going to learn biology behind, why this is all important.
Totally.
Why, you need to have certain moisturizers, or, the purpose of the sebaceous gland, that's your oil glands, and how it's going to, moisturize your follicles and stuff. So even just sharing all of that, they went away like, wow. And to be able to do it in a lab setting with gloves and aprons just added the extra touch.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
And so for people, who want to like even like start their own nonprofit, or just even start smaller and like mentoring like
Hmm.
a small group of girls, I mean, it's just one of those things, like it can easily find you. I will
Yeah.
say that, because you can be asked, even you're doing a podcast, and someone can come to you and say, "Hey, I see I've been watching your podcast. You're so great at it. I know a high school student that is kind of
Mm,
interested in. Would you like mind like sharing them part of your story?"
mm,
And that you're a mentor already,
yeah.
because someone sought you out. They saw something in you, and
Mm,
they feel like that you can provide something to someone else.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that can easily happen. From a broader perspective, not sure if you've heard of Million Women Mentors, but
Mm-mm.
that is national.
Oh
So it's
wow.
an
Okay.
opportunity for women to get involved, to mentor girls like in their local states.
Awesome.
I did that when I worked in industry, so that was a great opportunity as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many different local opportunities that can just come about, and I know, there may be someone listening to this that says, "Okay, I'm a young woman. I need to be mentored," because sometimes it's like you're doing all the pouring out,
Yeah.
but sometimes you need to be poured back into.
Mm,
And so I ended up joining a mentorship program sometime last year, which turned out to be very, very beneficial for me, and being able to be poured back into from someone else. So it,
cool.
it goes both ways. Like
Yeah.
you want to pour into someone, but you also want to get poured back into.
Yeah. Yeah. The Million Women Mentor, is that STEM specifically or is it
It
all
is.
professions? Okay.
It's STEM specifically.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
great. We'll link that in the show notes for the listeners if people want to check that out. That's fantastic. Okay, kind of moving onwards here. So, are there any emerging areas in science or tech that you're especially excited about for the next generation of learners?
Yeah, actually, synthetic biology.
Oh,
And yeah, and some bioengineering. So basically, synthetic biology is almost like a way for, I like to say it, how do I? I had the way I like to say it. It's almost like the way for coding of the natural world per se.
Oh.
So it's like using a new technology called CRISPR and gene editing,
Oh yeah.
all of that coming together. So we have done something in the realm of this for one summer camp.
Hmm.
So imagine knowing how to look at bacteria that can actually glow in the dark because they have that bioluminescence.
Yeah.
So we were able to do something on this level last summer where students were able to do their own bio. That's what it's called. And they're
Wow.
using fluorescent bacteria. They're doing like their own painting. And then over a few days, the bacteria starts to grow. And so
Wow.
their pictures that they've painted, they're able to see the full luminescence of it under fluorescent lighting.
Whoa.
So that was our first intro to that. We were just testing it out just to see how it would go, but it went over very, very well.
I mean, sign me up. Can I go back to middle
It
school? Like,
was a lot of fun.
yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a lot of fun. And then each
Yeah.
day we would come in and check the petri dishes,
Yeah.
and the students would be like, "Is the bacteria growing? Is it growing? Is it growing?"
Yeah.
And I was like, it'll get there and get there. By day 5, they could like definitely
Yeah.
see like their pictures come to life.
That is so cool. Okay, so you said synthetic, did you say synthetic biology?
Synthetic biology.
Okay, and then what was
Yeah.
the second one you said?
Bioengineering.
Bioengineering. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wow. I had never even, I don't think, heard the term synthetic biology. So yeah, thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah.
That's really neat. So, okay, so tying things up here. So where do you see building bridges going over the next, where do you see it going in 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah, yeah. We kind of touched on it a little bit,
Yeah.
where when I mentioned the whole idea of like, building bridges going from state to state. So
Yes.
that is one of those things, right? Because originally, I will say the founding state of building bridges was Tennessee because of
Hmm.
that first program taking there. We have had in the past two teams going in two states, Tennessee and Illinois. So I do want to get our Tennessee team back up and running again, but everybody's moved away. So that was the thing.
Oh,
That's why that team died down. People just relocated. So
yeah.
that was the only thing, but it was a great time having two different operating teams and different programs going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to get that going. Different states, different hubs
Yeah.
and meetups in these states to where, hands-on STEM programming can take place, but also mentorship
Hmm.
opportunities as well. Um, from a people capacity standpoint, I would like to get building bridges on university campuses.
Yeah.
So we already have like partnerships with certain universities where we're bringing in their students as interns,
Hmm.
which has been lovely.
That's great.
But I would like to have something to where there's a building bridges on certain university campuses to where students can receive mentorship, but
Mm-hmm.
also give mentorship.
That's
So
great.
they're able to tap into some of the middle schools and high schools that we interact with, but then receiving mentorship from people that are already like STEM professionals.
Yeah.
So don't know how that would happen, but definitely would love to have like building bridges on like university campuses.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think that's a fantastic idea and a needed area for sure. And something that I like would have loved to when I was going, like I said, through my undergrad. There were some stern, sassy professors that were scary. And some not, but but certainly would have helped, for sure. So yeah, I think that that's a fantastic vision. Like, yeah, definitely
Yeah,
needed.
yeah.
So
Because I'm even thinking now. You just said like being with a in a professor's class you didn't know how to approach.
yeah.
So like what if like building bridges on these campus and we had like this something hour, mentorship hour where students can come and bring like their questions about career paths and
Yeah.
certain things that they didn't feel comfortable asking their professors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That
So
yeah.
cool.
I think that would be really cool.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, as this evolves, just keep shoot me emails and I'm going to follow your newsletter and stuff. And then we'll shout it out as the years go on. And
I
then,
will definitely add you
yeah,
to our newsletter for sure.
yeah. Well, and then hopefully one day we'll have you in California and we can,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do it.
I can sign up for the summer camp or something and
We're always
go.
looking for volunteers. I will say
Yeah.
this in Chicago, we're going to be so busy this summer. We
Yeah.
got 3 camps planned.
Oh,
We
wow.
normally do 2,
Wow.
but we're doing 3. So we
That's
have a
great.
camp in June, July. So June is middle school girls only.
Yeah.
July is high school students,
Wow.
and August is middle school. But they're
Wow.
both taking on different aspects of STEM.
That's so cool. So cool. I wish I could like go back in time and take the classes like a student. That
Yeah,
sounds so
yeah.
cool. Okay, so to be mindful of your time here, one last like pod question for you. So if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self starting out in STEM, what would that have been?
That's good. That's good. I guess I would say to my younger self, um, you may be the only person that looks like you in the room, and that's okay.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
You're there for a reason. Know
Yeah,
that. You're there for a reason. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and remain confident.
awesome. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's what I would tell myself.
Perfect. And then I have a couple rapid fire questions for you here at the
Okay.
end. Some might give a little bit of some story behind them, but I'll do the rapid fire ones kind of quick. So lab coat or field work?
No, no, no. I was about to say lab coat. Field work, actually. Field work.
Okay. Um, would you rather read a science book or watch a documentary?
Science book.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this one's maybe a little bit long, and maybe you shared some of this, but is there a STEM figure who inspires you?
Yes, actually, Dr. Marie Daly. So she was
Okay.
actually the first African American woman to receive a PhD in chemistry
Oh,
in the United
cool.
States.
Yes, amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Love that.
yeah,
Okay. And then one fun fact about you that might surprise our listeners.
yeah. So, fun science professional fact: I was the first Black woman to join the Gatorate Sport Science Institute.
Yes, that's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to circle back to our two truths and a lie. So you said you're a baker, you said you're a dog walker, and that you have published poetry. I was
yeah.
thinking the dog walker's the lie. Which one
It
was it?
is the lie. I'm actually a
Oh,
dog foster.
oh, yay. Oh my goodness. Are you currently fostering right now?
No, so the last foster I had was in February, and I was thinking about fostering another dog this week. So we'll see.
Awesome. Do you
Yeah,
do one at a time or do you do like the puppy litters or
just one at a time.
okay. Yeah. Me and
Yeah.
my husband, we jumped like unknowingly. Our first ever foster was a litter of 7 German Shepherd Husky mixed puppies and the mom. And it was
What?
insanity.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, if I ever foster again, I would definitely do one.
One.
It was too much poop for me. Like we have grew up with dogs and all that stuff and love dogs, but that's a lot of dog poop.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
Man. Yeah,
it
I
is a
can only
lot.
do one. I can only do one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
great. That's good.
Yeah.
That's such a good, yeah, fostering's an amazing thing. So good, good,
Yeah,
good on you.
yeah. And
Um,
and the baking part is I love to bake. Like
yeah,
it's a stress reliever, and I'm always trying to do new recipes. Also going to baking classes. So
nice.
I like doing that a lot. Like if I knew food science was something I could major in, I probably would have did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your like go-to thing that you love to bake?
I'm a cookie person. When I want
Cookies, yeah.
something fast and quick,
Yeah.
it's like a good, nice chocolate chip cookie. And I try
Yeah.
to change the recipe up. I do like baking macarons, but they're
Mm,
really, really hard.
yeah.
They're really hard to make because you have to do the macrophaging and all of that with the egg whites and
Oh
stuff.
gosh. Yeah. Science.
Science,
Yeah.
yes, a lot of science. And I am a published poetry author, so I have a poetry book called The Awakening. I
Oh,
published it in 2023.
awesome. Is it on Amazon? Can we
It's on
link it?
Amazon, actually.
Great. We will
All
link it
right.
for our listeners in the show
Awesome.
notes. So,
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
amazing. Where can people find you, follow you on Instagram? What's your handles?
Yes. So at Dr. Shy Brown on Instagram, if you want to follow Building Bridges, it's at IAMBBINC. So it's IAMBB Inc.
Perfect.
We're on Instagram, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. You can connect with me, Sharitha Brown.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, we will link all that in the show notes for the listeners. And thank you again so much for joining us. This has been so fun.
It has been. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.